You ever feel a night go cold for no reason? Like the air learned a new language and all it speaks is warning. That's how it felt rolling down Route 19, the kind of southern road that doesn't have many witnesses, just pine trees and rumors. Malik Turner had the window cracked, letting the October breeze push the soot smell out of his car. Black Maserati, engine low like a promise, dashboard glowing that soft spaceship blue. He wasn't hurrying. Men who've seen the worst don't rush the quiet. Before we start the story, tell me, where are you watching from? And if these stories speak to you, make sure to hit that subscribe button. He'd left a veterans fundraiser 2 towns over. Handshakes, photos, an old Marine who saluted him with hands that shook. Malik gave a short speech about discipline, about how silence can be louder than pride. People clapped. Somebody pressed a folded thank you note into his palm. He slid it into his pocket next to a coin he carried from a place he couldn't name. Then the mirror lit up. Blue, red, blue again. At first, he didn't even tense. Training kicks in like muscle memory. Signal right. Ease off the gas. Check the shoulder. Stop smooth. The Maserati settled on the gravel like it had been here before. Hands to the wheel. Deep breath. Let the heartbeat come to you, not the other way around. Ravenshade was sleeping. The gas station across the 2-lane had a single pump working and a flicker in the open sign that never stopped. A delivery truck idled by the curb with a driver gnawing on a sandwich. The diner on the corner had that after-hours glow. A couple of teens in hoodies laughing too loud, pretending they weren't watching. The squad car door opened. Officer Ethan Crowe stepped out like the night owed him money. No big hat, just a severed buzz cut and a jaw that lived and clenched. He shined the flashlight in a way that wasn't for safety. It was for show. The beam scanned the leather, the console, the watch on Malik's wrist, like it was evidence. Malik lowered the window halfway. Not all the way, halfway. A compromise only people like him learn. Evening, officer. Calm, honest, measured. Crowe leaned in. License and registration. Malik handed both, smooth, palms open, no sudden moves. Crowe took them without looking. The flashlight stayed on Malik's face like it was trying to erase him. You from around here? Crowe asked, eyes moving past the documents like they were some old brochure. Passing through, Malik said. Headed south. Crowe smirked like that was the wrong answer to a test he'd already graded. Headed south in this? A beat of silence. The engine purred. Somebody's phone camera clicked awake from the gas station. That neon sign flickered again. Open, like the town itself couldn't decide if it was awake enough to witness this. Crowe took a step back, tilted his head. Go ahead and step out of the vehicle. Officer, Malik said carefully, am I being detained? Not aggressive. Just the script you learn when you've seen both sides of order. Crowe's hand rose just enough to make a point. Out, now. The sir that never came hung in the air, heavy as humidity. Malik's hand moved to the seatbelt. Slow click. He opened the door, the gravel complaining under Italian tires. He stood up. Straightened the jacket with that quiet military reflex, crease to crease. You never let the moment untuck you. Hands visible, eyes level. From the diner doorway, a teenage girl whispered, he didn't do nothing. Her friend, a boy with a skateboard and a bravery born of distance, raised his phone. The trucker in the idling rig leaned forward, engine rumble sinking with the anxiety, building in everyone's chest. Hands where I can see them, Crowe said. They're right here, Malik answered, raising them slow, fingers splayed. Higher. Malik lifted them a notch. The night got smaller. You could hear the insects stop to listen. There's a look some men get when their story about you isn't lining up with your reality. It's not doubt, it's irritation. Crowe had that look. The kind that says, I already picked my villain. Stop making it hard. Whose car is this? Mine. Registration matches. You can run it. I know what I can do. Crowe took a half circle, boots grinding the gravel into new shapes. The flashlight slipped to Malik's shoes, then up his legs. A scan, a verdict, a script. And then it happened without a word. Motion before meaning. Crowe's hand latched Malik's forearm, jerked, pivoted. The world tilted. Sky, light, gravel. Malik caught himself on palms trained to meet the ground. He didn't shout. The air left him, quiet and shocked, like it hit a wall it didn't see. Get on your knees! Crowe's voice cracked the quiet wide. A second patrol car slid in crooked, tires hissing. Another officer jogged over, posture uncertain, eyes searching for the danger he'd been promised. What we got? He asked between breaths. Possible stolen vehicle, Crowe said. Too fast, too loud, heat rising under each word. Non-compliant, resisting. Resisting. The teens looked at each other. Like, did we miss it? The camera saw everything. The camera missed nothing. Malik's cheek hovered a breath above the pavement. He spoke to the street, to the dust, to the God that watches without interrupting. Officer, he said, steady as a metronome. Name's Colonel Malik Turner, United States Army. He didn't throw it like a card. He set it down like a fact. Crowe's grip tightened for a beat, a twitch the camera almost caught. Yeah, that's so? A laugh with no humor. You can tell your stories at the station. The other officer, older, tired eyes, shifted like something about the tone didn't sit right. You ran the tags yet? I said I got it, Crowe snapped, which is not an answer. The older one nodded at Malik. Sir, stay still, for your safety. Funny thing to say to the stillest man on the road. From across the street, a woman in scrubs pressed a hand to her mouth. He's not doing anything. The clerk behind the counter whispered, should we call someone? And then laughed at himself because who else do you call when it's already the police? The station house radio crackled, faint in Crowe's shoulder mic. Static and codes, the language of certainty. He hauled Malik up by the arm. Not brutal enough to be spectacular, not gentle enough to be human. The camera phones caught everything the way they always do. Too late to stop it, too early to forget it. Malik's reflection floated in the cruiser window. Tie a little crooked now, eyes steady, mouth set in a line he learned in places where the horizon never promised anything. He said something only he could hear. It was 2 words long, and it kept the roof of his soul from caving in. Stay sharp. Crowe opened the back door like unveiling a trophy. Grand theft, probably. He tossed toward the older officer. Like suspicion could be a charge if you said it with your chest. Might be stolen valor, too. Look at him. The older cop didn't look. He looked away. The teens caught that on video. The looking away. Sometimes that's louder than the shove. Officer, Malik said again, voice low, not pleading. You can confirm it fast. Call Captain Avery Holt in Ravenshade. He knows me. Crowe smirked, and it showed all the way to his ears. I don't take orders from your imagination. That's not what I said. Get in the car. There was a moment right there where everything could have de-escalated. If someone had taken the documents and actually read the name. If someone had run the plates without trying to make a show of it. If the person with the badge had believed the person with the hands up. But that's not the story this town chose. Not tonight. Malik ducked into the cruiser. The interior smelled like vinyl and old adrenaline. Through the glass, the world looked bent. like a truth seen underwater. The siren spun the colors into ribbons as the door thumped shut. Inside his jacket, his phone buzzed, a calendar alert reminding him to call a sergeant's widow in the morning. He closed his eyes for half a breath. There are wars that have coordinates, and wars that just have habits. He knew both maps by heart. Outside, the clerk held his phone higher, whispering to his own recording. "This is Ravenshade, Route 19, October, like 11:43 p.m. The man said he's a colonel. He said his name is Malik Turner." His voice shook, but he kept filming. The teens cross-posted to 3 apps before the cruiser even pulled away. The trucker cut his engine, sat there in the sudden hush, and stared at the neon sign struggling to keep a promise. Crowe slid behind the wheel, breath short, movements clipped, adrenaline pretending to be confidence. The older officer tapped the hood once, like a goodbye he didn't want to say, and walked back toward the gas station to answer questions with non-answers, the kind departments print in bulk. The cruiser rolled forward, gravel to asphalt, siren a brief whoop that said, "No one's going to outrun me tonight." Ravenshade watched them go, with its porch lights and its quiet porches, and its people who will tell this story tomorrow, like a rumor, and next week, like a memory. In the back seat, Malik sat upright, hands together, wrists resting on his knees. He stared at the cage between him and the front, the pattern of the mesh like a net in the ocean. He let the breath come in 4s, a count he learned years ago. Somewhere the air was thinner and the ground less forgiving. He pictured the captain's face. He pictured a sun-bleached wall with bullet holes that once spelled a lesson. He pictured a folded flag and the little weight of medals, and how none of that could keep a hand from your neck when a story about your skin was louder than your name. He didn't think about revenge. He didn't even think about winning. He thought about the call he'd make to the widow tomorrow, and how steady his voice would have to be. How you can't afford to shake for your own sake when somebody else needs you to be a lighthouse. The dashboard radio chattered, Crowe responding in short bursts, adding details that made him sound bigger inside the uniform. Suspicious, luxury vehicle, non-compliant, possible theft. The words were armor. The words were an alibi he was sewing in real time. They passed the diner. The teens' faces were lit with screens, thumbs moving fast, captions turning into a chorus. He wasn't resisting. "His name is Malik," he said, "Colonel." The video would hit 1,000 views before the cruiser reached the station. 10,000 before Crowe finished his report. That's the math of now. The town slid by, shuttered hardware store, church sign that read, "Be still and know," and a mural of soldiers saluting under an eagle, so big it looked like it could lift the whole block. Malik glanced at it through the glass and felt the exact kind of irony that doesn't smile. As the station came into view, a squat building with a flag that never quite hung right, Malik angled his chin down, collected himself like a man stepping onto a stage he didn't audition for. He didn't pray for a miracle. He prayed for clear steps and steady ground. He prayed to be the kind of quiet that rearranges a room. The cruiser turned in, tires crunching the loose rock of a parking lot that had seen too many endings and not enough apologies. Crowe parked hard, killed the siren, left the lights cycling because showmanship loves an afterglow. He opened the back door and paused just long enough to savor the moment he thought would define him. Malik met his eyes, not defiant, not broken, just present, like a lighthouse in a storm that 100% intends to keep standing. "Officer," he said, one last time, a line drawn with dignity instead of chalk. "You can confirm everything in 5 minutes." Crowe's smile was the kind people practice in mirrors, where no one can disagree with them. "We'll see." And that's how part 1 ends. Not with a slammed door, or a courtroom, or a headline. Just the quiet step between a man and a building. Between accusation and evidence. Between a story told about you and the truth that's about to walk in wearing its own kind of uniform. Because sometimes the loudest part of a night is the second right before the reveal. The cruiser rolled up to Ravenshade PD, lights still spinning like they didn't know when to quit. Inside the back seat, Malik Turner sat straight-backed, wrists still cuffed, eyes on the cracked vinyl floor. He'd been in stations before. Overseas, dusty outposts where fear came wearing uniforms of different colors. But nothing about this building felt safe. This one smelled like stale coffee and ego. Officer Ethan Crowe pushed open the door, half pulling, half guiding Malik out. "Watch your step," he said, like courtesy could hide contempt. The night air was heavy, that swamp town thickness that made even silence sweat. Inside, the fluorescent lights hummed like angry bees. Desks cluttered with half-done reports. A vending machine blinking out of order like a moral statement. Crowe walked Malik past a pair of rookie cops who looked up, looked away, then looked again. One whispered, "Luxury car, huh?" The other smirked. Crowe liked that. He puffed his chest. "Grand Theft Auto suspect. Thought he'd cruise through my town in a stolen Maserati." Malik said nothing. He'd learned long ago that words could make cages smaller. They stopped near a counter where Officer Hill, mid-50s, worked the night desk. "Got you another one?" Hill asked, without looking up. "Yep." Said his name's Colonel Turner. "Sounds cute, right?" Crowe chuckled. Hill's pen froze mid-air. Just for a second. Then he forced a grin. "Colonel, huh? We got all kinds now." Crowe shoved Malik lightly toward the bench. "Sit tight. We'll see which army he's talking about." Somewhere behind them, the station TV flickered, muted news anchors mouthing tragedy. Hill's phone buzzed. So did the rookies. Then another's. Small gasps, short murmurs. The screen glow hit faces like campfire light. Outside, the videos were already viral. The first clip, Crowe yelling, "Get on your knees." The second, Malik whispering his name. The third, the shove. Captions rolling faster than thought. "He said he's a colonel. He didn't resist. This is Ravenshade." Crowe noticed the ripple but didn't recognize it yet. "What, you all bored?" he barked. No one answered. He turned back to Malik. "You think that phone show's gonna help you? People love a good villain." Malik met his eyes, calm, patient. "They also love the truth. It just moves slower," Crowe scoffed. "Truth don't pay my bills." He started filling out the report. Words came easy. Suspect resisted. Possible stolen vehicle. Hostile demeanor. Each line was a lie, written like a routine. Malik watched him work, the same way he'd watched younger soldiers overheat their rifles. Pity first, then worry. He could almost predict the sound the man would make when reality jammed. 10 minutes passed. The air conditioner coughed. Hill's phone pinged again. Louder this time. Notification tone from a local news app. He frowned, thumbed it open, squinted. "Ethan," he said softly. "That him on video?" Crowe didn't even look up. "Yeah, probably. Cameras everywhere. I ain't shy." Hill swallowed. "No, man. Look." He turned the phone. The thumbnail showed Crowe's face mid-shout, Malik on his knees. Caption screaming, "Veteran Colonel assaulted in Ravenshade." Crowe blinked. What the? How's that? Hill stood. The rookies pretended to file paperwork. The room tightened. Then the front door opened. Captain Avery Holt stepped in, uniform crisp, expression unreadable. Crowe straightened fast. Evening, Captain. Got us a... Holt raised a hand. Not another word. His gaze locked on Malik. Something changed in his eyes, a mix of shock and recognition. He moved closer. Colonel Turner? The room froze. Crowe's mouth hung open. Hill's pen dropped, clattering like a verdict. Malik nodded once. Captain. And then Holt did the one thing no one in that building expected. He saluted. Silence swallowed the room whole. The hum of lights vanished beneath the sound of every heartbeat, realizing what it just witnessed. Crowe tried to speak, but his throat refused to follow. Holt turned to him slowly, voice measured. You want to tell me what you were thinking? Crowe's badge suddenly felt heavier than metal. Sir, Procedure? Holt's tone cut like static. Since when is procedure throwing a decorated officer into the dirt for owning a car you can't afford? No one breathed. Malik didn't smile, didn't gloat. He just sat there, the quiet kind of dignity that doesn't need witnesses. Crowe stammered. He didn't identify himself at first. Holt snapped. He shouldn't have to identify himself to survive the night. The words hung there, burning holes in the silence. Hill cleared his throat. Kappa, media's already outside. Holt looked to Malik. You want me to handle them? Malik shook his head. Let the truth walk on its own. Crowe stepped back, face pale, mouth dry. Sir, I didn't... Holt interrupted. Save it for internal affairs. Then, softer, to Malik. I'm sorry. On behalf of... He stopped. Maybe he knew apologies can't carry that kind of weight. Malik stood. The cuffs clinked. Holt nodded to Hill. Get those off him. Metal released metal. The sound was small but final. Malik rubbed his wrists once, then straightened his jacket, slow and deliberate. He turned to Crowe, not angry, disappointed, the kind of look that sinks deeper than a punch. Son, he said quietly, you don't know what dangerous looks like. He walked past him, through the same doorway where Crowe once shoved him in. Outside, flashes burst, phones, cameras, truth catching up. Holt followed him out. Inside, the station stayed still, a room full of echoes, learning how to live with silence. And behind those walls, somewhere between shame and disbelief, Ethan Crowe finally understood that fear doesn't make you strong. It just makes you loud. The door swung open and the night hit different, not cooler, clearer. Phones lifted like a flock. Flashes stuttered. Somebody shouted, Colonel, is it true? Another, do you plan to sue? Malik Turner didn't break stride. Captain Avery Holt flanked him like a shadow that finally picked a side. Behind them, Officer Ethan Crowe hovered in the doorway, small as a rumor losing oxygen. The videos didn't walk, they ran. 10 clips, 20 angles, 30 captions that all said the same thing. He wasn't resisting. A local reporter went live from the curb. 2 regional stations piggybacked the feed before midnight. The headline wrote itself in real time. Ravenshade officer detains decorated colonel. Videos spark outrage. Comment counts stacked like sandbags. Folks argued, wept, raged, shared. An old church deacon typed, I taught that boy Crowe Sunday school. We failed him somewhere. A Marine vet posted a photo of his own knees on gravel and wrote, I felt this in my bones. A teenager added, I filmed it. Don't let them say it didn't happen. Inside, the station scrambled for a version of the truth they could live with. Outside, the truth had already chosen its version. Holt spoke briefly, Measured words, no spin. We are handling this internally, he said, jaw tight. Immediate review, body cam, witness statements, full cooperation. He didn't say alleged. He didn't say misunderstanding. He looked at Malik when he said cooperation, as if to borrow some courage. Malik stepped to the microphones. The crowd leaned in like the night had ears. He didn't deliver a speech. He delivered a temperature. I'm alive, he began, simple and blunt. And some men aren't, so I'm not going to waste this breath. The line cut through the noise like a zipper. What you saw out there, that wasn't about a car. That was about a creed some folks carry behind their teeth. Decide first, loan later. We can't keep paying interest on that. He paused. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for repairs. A hush. Even the phones seemed to blink slower. He didn't throw names, didn't wave medals. He just told the truth like it paid rent. There are good officers in this building, he said, nodding toward Holt without naming him. And there are frightened ones. Fear looks loud. Real duty looks quiet. He thanked the kid who filmed, the clerk who spoke up, the people who didn't look away. Y'all did the brave thing, he said. You witnessed. Someone in the crowd whispered, Amen. By morning, the town wore the story like a fresh bruise. The diner's talk radio crawled from booth to booth. He said Colonel. He said stolen. The gas station clerk replayed the footage on loop, each time shaking his head like he could shake the night off. School hallways buzzed. Church listservs hummed. In living rooms, veterans straightened in their chairs when Malik's name came up. Pride and anger sitting down together like cousins who don't get along but share a grandmother. Internal Affairs arrived before noon, with shirts too crisp and eyes too neutral. They collected body cam files, pulled dispatch audio, lined up interviews. Crowe tried for confidence and landed on glare. Procedure, he repeated, as if repetition could turn a door into a wall. The investigator asked, which procedure covers pushing a compliant subject to the ground before checking registration? Crowe exhaled through his nose, a tiny storm that didn't wet anything. The older officer from the scene stared at his hands and told the truth with long pauses between sentences. The rookies broke eye contact with their own shoes. Hill gave dates, times, and the weather. Holt signed paperwork like a man carving his name into something heavier than paper. Administrative leave came first. Badge off. Gun locked. Crowe stood in the locker room doorway, staring at the empty strip on his chest, where metal used to make him taller. He told himself it was temporary. He told himself the internet didn't know context. He told himself 1,000 little things that all added up to, not my fault. But there's a terrible quiet on the other side of denial. He heard it for the first time. The department held a brief press conference in the afternoon. Holt's voice didn't wobble. We're opening an independent review, he said. We've requested state oversight. We will not grade our own homework. A reporter asked about Malik's rank. Holt said, that's on record. Confirmed. Another asked if Crowe had prior complaints. Holt didn't flinch. That's part of the review, he answered, which meant probably yes, in a language everyone understood. Meanwhile, Malik walked the long way out of sight, cutting through the back lot where the sun burned off the last of the dew. He phoned the widow on his calendar. His voice never shook. Ma'am, I didn't forget, he said, leaning against the brick, letting the heat move through him. He asked about her day, remembered the name of her dog, promised to send a contact for benefits. When they hung up, he stood there and stared at a flag tangled on the pole, windless and stubborn. He untied it gently. Only some knots are meant for force. He avoided interviews after that. Not because he was hiding, because he knew the difference between a moment and a movement. "Let the facts talk," he told Holt. "I'll talk to my people." His people were the ones who'd ever flinched at blue lights and pretended it was a cramp. The ones who coached their kids on "yes, sir" and hands visible like it was a bedtime prayer. The ones who could name men who didn't make it home from a routine stop. That evening, the town held a vigil that nobody officially planned. Candles bloomed along the station steps. A choir mother hummed a hymn without a microphone, and somehow everyone heard it. The skateboard kid stood awkward in front, phone holstered, hands useless without record. "Thank you," Malik told him. The boy shrugged like he'd only carried groceries. "You shouldn't have had to," Malik added. The boy nodded, cheeks hot with the kind of pride that still doesn't fit right. Crowe stayed home, curtains closed, TV loud enough to argue with. His phone lit with texts that split his life in two. "You good, bro?" And "Why'd you do that, man?" One message from a number he didn't recognize said simply, "It could have been my father." He powered the phone down, and the guilt didn't. Somewhere between the couch and the hallway, he felt a draft that wasn't air. An emptiness that comes when your story about yourself stops matching the mirror. By day 3, the State Bureau opened a formal inquiry. Lawyers appeared on both sides of the street. The union cleared its throat. The mayor looked tired. Holt posted the policy manual online with highlighted sections like a syllabus: use of force, bias training, duty to de-escalate. Pages that once gathered dust became public scripture. A line from the manual rose and hung over the town like a banner: "Presence of affluence is not probable cause." Folks read it twice, some for the law, some for the poetry. Malik wrote one thing, and only one, for the world to see. He put it on a white background with no music, no animation, just words that didn't need help. "I didn't survive war to lose myself at a traffic stop. If you wear a badge, protect people from your fear first. If you hold a camera, don't look away. If you carry power, remember it's on loan. Repairs over revenge. That's the mission." It pinned to the top of every platform he had. People screenshotted it, printed it, taped it to break room fridges and classroom doors. One teacher used it for a morning writing prompt. One grandmother folded it into her Bible. You never know which words will make a home. When the first official finding leaked, policy violations likely, disciplinary action pending, the town didn't cheer. It exhaled. Even exhaling is a kind of prayer. Holt met Malik in his office late. The building finally quiet. "You could send this thing into orbit," Holt said, meaning lawsuits and press tours and interviews with lights too bright to tell the truth under. Malik shook his head. "I want better than orbit," he answered. "I want gravity. I want us to stick to something that holds." Holt nodded, older by a week than he'd been on Monday. "We'll rebuild training from the bones," he promised. "No more mystery courage. Real skills, real checks." Malik put out his hand. Holt took it. Two men agreeing to push the same rock uphill. Before he left, Malik walked past the booking desk, where the out-of-order lights still blinked on the vending machine. He smiled at the clerk from the gas station who'd stopped by to drop his statement. "You did right," he said. The clerk shrugged, embarrassed. "Felt wrong to do nothing." Malik nodded. "That's how the right things start." Outside, the night had softened. Candles guttered into puddles of wax. A little girl held her mother's hand and stared at the man from the video like he was both myth and neighbor. Malik knelt to her height. "You safe," he said gently. "Not because I'm here, because we are." She didn't fully get it, but she smiled like she did. As he stood, the choir mother's hymn thinned into silence. The crowd shifted, unsure if it was over. Malik looked at the station one last time. Brick, glass, flag now untangled, and felt the shape of a question settle into an answer. He didn't need the last word. He just needed the last feeling. And here's the part they won't put on a plaque. The town didn't change because it got loud. It changed because it finally listened to the quiet, the kind that follows a salute. They called it an administrative review, but everybody knew it was a courtroom with bad coffee. The fluorescent lights hummed above 3 folding tables, 6 plastic chairs, and a single microphone that made everyone sound guilty. Malik Turner sat straight, crisp, in a dark suit instead of his uniform. He looked like order itself had taken human shape. Captain Avery Holt sat beside him, sleeves rolled, jaw wired tight. Across the room, Ethan Crowe fidgeted in a seat too small for pride. His lawyer whispered, but Crowe's eyes stayed locked on Malik, half defiant, half scared of what reflection looked like when it fought back. A panelist cleared his throat. "We're here to review the conduct of Officer Crowe in the incident of Ravenshade Highway," someone muttered, like the words themselves already carried weight. Crowe's lawyer jumped first. "My client reacted within policy. Perceived threat, high-value vehicle, possible evasion." Holt cut in. "Possible, he stopped on command, hands visible." The lawyer snapped. "Captain, let the board." Holt leaned forward. He didn't resist. He identified himself. You just didn't like what he represented. Crowe's jaw ticked. "You weren't there." Malik finally spoke, calm but heavy. "You're right. You were. You wrote the ending before you read the story." Silence spread like oil. The panel scribbled. The lawyer coughed words into the air. Training gaps, adrenaline, miscommunication. All excuses that sound fine until you play the video. When they rolled the footage, the room changed temperature. Even the speakers seemed ashamed of their sound. Crowe's voice boomed through tinny audio. "Get on your knees." Then Malik's, "My name's Colonel Malik Turner." The shove followed. The room flinched with it. The playback ended. Nobody breathed. One panelist whispered, "That's enough." Crowe tried to stand. "That video don't show everything." "It showed enough," Holt said. They dismissed him to the hallway while they deliberated. He paced under buzzing exit lights, trying to remember how authority felt. Through the door's thin glass, he saw Malik sitting perfectly still, hands folded, as if the air itself obeyed him now. After 40 minutes, they called them back. The lead investigator read slow, each word its own sentence. Findings: excessive force, false reporting, violation of Departmental Code 14B, bias-based policing. Crowe's knees went soft. The badge in the envelope on the table looked smaller than it used to. Effective immediately. Officer Crowe is terminated pending full state review. He nodded once, like a man agreeing to gravity. Outside, the reporters were waiting again. Crowe pushed through them, eyes glassy. Someone shouted, "Do you regret it?" He muttered, "I regret getting caught." But even he didn't believe himself. Across the lot, Malik walked slower. Cameras followed him too, but he didn't perform. He just breathed. A journalist asked, "Colonel, how does justice feel?" He answered, "Incomplete, because truth didn't rebuild what fear had already broken." Ravenshade divided clean down Main Street. Half the town called it accountability. The other half called it betrayal. The diner served coffee with side orders of argument. Church sermons bent around the story like vines around a fence. Old men at the barber shop said, "Kid lost his head, but he ain't evil." Mothers whispered, "He could have killed him." Teenagers wore shirts that read, "Stay calm, soldier." Crowe's house became a landmark of silence. Malik tried to rest. Couldn't. Every interview request felt like a trap. Every compliment felt like another expectation. People wanted him to be the symbol, the soundbite, the sermon. He just wanted to drive without flinching at lights behind him. At night, he'd sit on his porch with a cup of black coffee, the same calm he'd shown under pressure, now turning heavy in his chest. Holt stopped by once, off duty, jacket unbuttoned. "You all right?" Malik shrugged. "Justice don't pay rent. You could sue, win big." He shook his head. "And by what? Peace don't come with receipts." They watched the streetlights blink on one by one. Somewhere, a siren wailed distant and faded. Malik whispered, mostly to himself, "Repairs over revenge." It sounded easier when I said it. Holt answered, "Most truth does." He returned to teaching tactical ethics at the base. His first lesson back, he told a room full of young recruits, "Don't mistake fear for instinct. They sound alike till they speak." The room stayed quiet long after he finished. That's how you know they heard. In Ravenshade, the traffic stop became folklore. Not the kind told with ghosts, but with truths that still breathe. Because some nights, when the sirens flare, people remember. One man kept his calm, another lost his soul, and a whole town learned the difference. Ravenshade got quiet in the months after the hearing. Not peaceful, quiet, like a pause that didn't know what to fill itself with. The cameras left. Reporters packed their cables, promising follow-ups that never came. The headlines slid down the feed, replaced by the next fire somewhere else. But inside the town, the air still remembered. Malik Turner didn't chase interviews. He started working with the youth center instead, mentoring kids who already knew what red and blue. Every Thursday evening, he'd walk in with his sleeves rolled and tell stories that sounded like lessons disguised as confession. Discipline, he'd say, ain't about control. It's about peace that won't let fear drive. The kids listened, some for the message, some for the tone. He had the kind of calm that made even the restless sit still. Captain Holt kept his word. Training sessions doubled. Body cams got checked instead of collected. A new policy board met every second Monday, half uniform, half civilian. It wasn't perfect, but it was movement. Ethan Crowe spent those same months learning what silence really sounds like. No siren, no radio, no nameplate on his chest. He took shifts at a friend's garage, hands cut on engines instead of paperwork. At first, folks whispered when he walked in stores. Then they stopped whispering. They just stared. The badge had once opened doors. Now his face closed them. One night he drove to the edge of Route 19, parked where the asphalt still showed faint scuffs from tires and knees. He watched the traffic pass, each headlight a judgment. For the first time he said it out loud, to nobody. "I was wrong." The words didn't fix anything, but they stopped echoing. That's how you start to learn. He wrote a letter, not to the department, to Malik. To Wasi, just Wasi. "You told me. I didn't know what dangerous looks like. You were right. I learned. It's the man in the mirror when he stops seeing people." He never mailed it. Some lessons aren't supposed to reach their target. They're supposed to stay heavy, so you carry them right. Ravenshade moved slower after that. People waved more, looked longer, argued less. The diner added a framed photo of the vigil under the chalkboard specials. Someone painted the gas station wall with the words, "Stay calm, soldier," in faded silver. The clerk who filmed that night became a volunteer dispatcher. The skateboard kid finished school early and joined film class in Atlanta, majoring in truth, as he put it. And every anniversary, candles returned to the station steps, not to mourn, but to remind. Malik visited the base once a month, talking to recruits who hadn't seen his viral moment but felt its echo. He taught situational judgment, empathy drills, and the art of silence under pressure. Power, he told them, isn't what you hold. It's what you refuse to misuse. At home, he kept the Maserati, but traded the plates for ones that read Repairs Revenge. People honked approval when they recognized it on the highway. Some didn't get the joke. That was fine. Not every truth needs translation. Sometimes at night, he'd sit in that same car in his driveway, engine off, hands resting on the wheel, headlights painting nothing but road. He'd breathe, slow and steady, like he was practicing for peace. A local podcaster interviewed him months later. "Colonel, do you think Ravenshade changed?" she asked. Malik smiled, small and tired. "Change ain't loud," he said. "It's the space between one mistake and the next. If we use that space better, that's progress." She leaned in. "And Officer Crowe?" Malik looked past her microphone, toward the window, where daylight was starting to fade. "I hope he's building something honest," he said. "We both needed repairs." He didn't give a quote for headlines. He just left the studio and walked into the afternoon, sunlight washing the edge off memory. Some stories end with justice. The good ones end with understanding. But the rare ones, the necessary ones, end with responsibility that never leaves. And that's what Ravenshade became. Not a tragedy, not a triumph, but a reminder that peace isn't the absence of noise. It's the discipline to keep listening after the sirens stop. 1 year later, Ravenshade didn't look different. It felt different. The air moved easier, like the town had finally exhaled. The candles from the old vigil had melted into the concrete, leaving pale circles where wax once burned. Folks still walked past them slow, out of habit and respect. Malik Turner had let the noise die down. He wasn't on talk shows anymore. He was teaching leadership workshops at the academy in Macon. The flyers called it Courage Under Pressure, but the soldiers called it the Turner class. They said he didn't teach strategy. He taught stillness. Every session started the same way. He'd stand at the front, hands in pockets, eyes scanning the room. "When fear shows up," he'd say. Ethan Crowe drifted for months before he came back. No badge, no title, just a man in plain clothes with calloused hands from fixing other people's cars. He showed up one evening at the youth center, toolbox in hand. "The AC's rattling," he told the receptionist. She recognized him, hesitated, then nodded. Word got around in minutes. Malik was in the gym, teaching breathing drills, when Crowe appeared at the door. The room froze. Even the kids stopped mid-count. "Colonel," Crowe said softly, eyes on the floor. "I can fix the noise in the vents. Thought it might help." Malik studied him for a long beat, then stepped aside. "Go ahead. No speeches. No apologies. Just the sound of tools clicking, metal clinking, and two men sharing the same air, without history barking between them." When Crowe finished, he wiped his hands on a rag and said, "Didn't come to make peace, just to make something work again." Malik nodded. "That's how peace starts." They didn't shake hands. They didn't need to. The following weekend, the town hosted a small gathering on the courthouse lawn. No reporters, no networks. Just locals, a borrowed mic, and the mural of "Stay Calm Soldier" behind them. Malik stepped up last. "A year ago," he began, "we learned what silence can cost. Tonight, I want to talk about what it can build." He looked out over faces, church ladies, high school kids, the gas station clerk, Holt in uniform, and Crowe standing in the back, cap low. "Forgiveness ain't a gift," Malik said. "It's maintenance. You don't do it once. You do it so the machine keeps running. If you don't, the rust wins. Ravenshade still got rust," he added, "but it's learning the sound of repair." The crowd didn't cheer. They just nodded, the way people do when they've lived the same truth. Holt's eyes watered, quick and unannounced. Crowe kept his head down, but his shoulders eased a little. Weeks later, a new sign went up outside the station. Community Safety and Training Center, established 2026. First class, bias awareness. Guest lecturer, Colonel Malik Turner. Assistant instructor, Ethan Crowe. Their first day back in the same room, a rookie asked nervously, "Sir, how do you unlearn fear?" Malik smiled faint. "You don't unlearn it," he said. "You outgrow it." Crowe added, voice steady, "And you listen before you look." The rookies wrote both lines down. That night, the town lights shimmered off rain-slick streets. Malik drove home slow, passing the mural, the gas station, the place where it all started. He cracked his window, let the humid air in, and whispered to no one, "We fixed more than we broke." And somewhere in that small Georgia town, the sirens finally sounded like what they were meant to. Warnings, not verdicts. A few years later, Ravenshade wasn't the same town people once whispered about. It was the one other towns called for advice. The Community Safety and Training Center that began in a small room behind the station had grown into a full-blown statewide program, Project Ravenshade. It started as a workshop. Now it was policy. Malik Turner's name carried quiet respect. Not fame, not politics, just weight. His philosophy, repairs over revenge, had found its way into manuals, classrooms, and community boards. Every police recruit in Georgia watched the footage from that night, not as punishment, but as perspective. The first slide of the training deck read, "Courage isn't loud. It's the moment you choose not to fear what you don't understand." Ethan Crowe never wore a badge again, by choice, but he stayed in the work. He became one of the lead instructors in Malik's program, teaching de-escalation through empathy. When rookies asked why they should listen to him, he never hid it. "'Cause I'm the reason this class exists," he'd say, eyes steady, voice stripped of ego. He didn't preach redemption, he practiced it. Every day he showed up, every time he admitted who he used to be. The veterans respected him. The new recruits studied him. And Malik? He never once brought up the past, because he didn't need to. The repair was happening right in front of him. A year later, counties across the South adopted Ravenshade's methods, pairing officers with community mentors, hosting joint drills, teaching kids how to talk to police and police how to listen. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress that finally looked like motion. Documentaries called Malik the soldier who disarmed silence. He never watched them. He said, "The world loves symbols. I just wanted better habits." When Malik finally retired, the state held a small ceremony, not televised, just heartfelt. Crowe spoke first. His voice shook at the edges but stayed honest. "He could have buried me with his silence," he said. "Instead, he used it to teach me how to listen. That's the kind of danger the world needs more of." Then Malik stepped up. Older, slower, still sharp. "I didn't fix the system," he said. "I just proved one man can stop feeding it for a night." He looked at the new recruits in the front row. "If you remember anything from this story, remember this. Power is loud. Integrity whispers. Listen for the whisper. Applause rose, not wild, not forced, just the kind that lasts longer than sound. That evening, Malik drove one last time down Route 19, the same road where everything changed. The same gas station now remodeled, lights warm, windows clean. The murals still there, letters freshened up. Stay calm, soldier. He pulled over for a second, engine humming low. The world outside was quieter now, not because the noise was gone, but because people had learned how to hear beyond it. He smiled, whispered under his breath, "Mission complete." And as he drove off into the calm Georgia night, the town of Ravenshade finally rested easy, a place that once learned fear and now taught peace.